So this is a video response to Cardinal Virtue's video response to the video that I pulled down. And for anybody who's wondering if I'm going to re-upload that video called We Are All Moderates, I'm not going to re-upload it. And the reason I'm not going to re-upload it is not because Cardinal Virtue's posted his video. I think he even says in his description box that I pulled mine down before he could post his. The reason I pulled it down is because I felt like it was really underrepresentative of what I was trying to say. And after watching it a couple times and reading criticisms, I felt that I made myself look like an asshole and I made myself look really fucking stupid. So, I don't agree with everything I said in that video. But I do agree with the other video I posted called Theo Warner is not a moderate. Before watching this video, pause it, watch Cardinal Virtue's video, and watch the video called Theo Warner is not a moderate. And the reason I say that is because that's closer to really what I think. What I think is, and this is the TLDR version, is that Theo Warner, Nancy Pelosi, Obama, Biden, Stephen Colbert, anybody who is really kind of a rational human being and is still a Christian should not be labeled a moderate Christian. And just go watch that video. I take offense with grouping them in with the vast majority of Christians who are more than willing to sit by. And so really this clash between Cardinal Virtues and I really kind of comes down to be what it means to be a moderate. Because to me, being a moderate doesn't mean being nuanced. And to me, it means being lacking in opinion. It means being apathetic. It means wanting to stick to the status quo. It means not wanting to make up your mind. And he can have his definition. I don't have a problem with people being nuanced. I have nuanced beliefs. And maybe I'm a moderate on some issues. Like, I consider myself to be a moderate on the issue of immigration. But I still think that I need to make up my mind on immigration. And that I'm still kind of part of the problem if I don't throw my 2 cents, whether I say that we need to increase security or whether we need to make it so that way it's easier to get in, and the thousand of various other perspectives and positions you can hold on immigration. I need to come up with my position. And when I talk about moderates and having a problem with moderates, I'm saying that I have a problem with people not coming up with positions. And it's not a uniform position. It's not that you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian or an anarchist or whatever. But having an opinion is better than not having an opinion at all. And that's really the big message I was trying to send out there. So, this clash, and the short version of this video is that that difference in the definition of what it means to be a moderate. So, onwards though. Anybody else who's actually sticking around, all two of you, thank you. And here's what's really surprising. After watching your video, Cardinal Virtues, and after getting that PM from you, it's shocking because I feel like you didn't really understand maybe I fucked up, first of all. I fucked up that video and it didn't say what I wanted to say. But you didn't say anything at all about the video called Theo Warner is not a moderate, in spite of the fact that you gave me a PM in which you're like, I like what you said in the video. And maybe you thought that two different people, made two different videos, because I know that the videos did seem like they were made by two different people. But I don't understand how you had to have watched that Theo Warner video first, because it was posted first, and you left that PM before I even uploaded the other video that I pulled down. So, knowing that you watched it, or at least watched part of it, I don't understand how you think that I'm really saying that people are my way or the highway, that I'm saying it's black or white, that I'm saying that you either are extremists or you're agreeing with me. Because I am above all else trying to separate what it means to be a moderate. And I am bashing on what I perceive to be an actual moderate. And yeah, that doesn't seem to factor in your video at all. So, but past that, if I was genuine to what I was saying in the video that I pulled down, I would agree with everything you said in your video. I'll call this video backpedaling, because I'm pretty much kind of backpedaling, but I'm still kind of responding to what you said. So, when I said something like our side, and you're like, I don't know what you mean by our side, what I did mean was specific issues, like you said, like our side on the issue of gay marriage, legalizing gay marriage. And yes, when a moderate Christian takes our side on gay marriage, where we all three say we want gay marriage to be legalized, I take offense with calling them a moderate. I think that they're a modern, M-O-D-E-R-N, a modern Christian, because they've woken up to the plights and the troubles of homosexuals in today's world. They have said, hey, today is not good. The status quo is not good. We need to make things better for people. That does not make somebody a moderate Christian. So I guess that's the biggest problem I have with your video. When I say moderate Christian, I don't think of the Christians who are speaking out in support of gay marriage and gay rights and gay adoption. I think of the vast majority of Christians who occupy the North states, the South states, whatever state, where gay marriage is still illegal, or it still isn't legally recognized, at least. I think that in a state where, like California, where there's Prop 8, that is not full of religious zealots. And if you think that California has Prop 8 because it's full of religious zealots who aren't moderate, then feel free to clarify. What I'm saying is that those people who basically vote for the local California, legislator or whatever, who are continuously voting for these politicians to have it so that way gay marriage isn't legalized in California, that those people are still moderates. Because I still think that they still treat gays as human beings. They just think that there's something like the sanctity of marriage or something like that. They have some problem, and they're still moderate. And that's who I have a problem with. People like Theo Warner, who speak out in Florida for gay marriage, is not a moderate in my perspective. And so if your definition of being a moderate means being a rational human being with a nuanced opinion, then I agree with you. And that video that I made wasn't directed at those people. It's at the people who are apathetic, who are in the center, who are undecided, and who are sticking with the status quo. If you have another term for that, if you have another term, then that's the term I will use, and that's who that video is targeted at. I wasn't saying that there are three options. I wasn't saying that you're either an extreme Christian, that either you're a moderate Christian, or either you're an atheist. I think that people have nuanced, eclectic opinions, and that's a good thing. I can criticize Rick Santorum, and I can even find things with Rick Santorum from which I agree with him upon. I don't know what those are, but I'm sure I could probably find them. But if you're just somebody who votes in your local election to basically make it so that way gay marriage is illegal, to make it so that way it's harder for women to get an abortion, but you don't come out and you don't say what your opinions are, and you don't say the reasons for why you're against gay marriage and why you're against abortion, you're just kind of, you don't want to be labeled a Republican or a religious zealot. That is a bad thing, because you're closing yourself off for criticism. That's who that video was targeted at. And to clarify, I wasn't saying that if you're a moderate anything, that therefore you're responsible for all the problems in the world. I wasn't so much saying that if you're a moderate on immigration like myself, that therefore I'm to blame for, global warming. No. What I'm saying is that within a relative issue, within a specific issue, if you take the middle ground, and you don't take a perspective, that is not contributing to the debate, and it's not allowing us to advance. And I am not saying that you're either one side or the other side. And that's what I was trying to get across when I'm saying that the world is more like in color and not so much in gray. Because what you're saying is that the world isn't black and white. You're not either a Democrat or a Republican, that it's gray. And I think that's stupid, because you're still assuming that there's a darker side and a lighter side. What I'm saying is that there can be a socialist and that there can be a libertarian, and I agree with libertarians and socialists more so than I do with somebody who's a hard, core conservative. And yet I'm still ideologically, opposed to those perspectives. I don't agree with Ron Paul, and you don't agree with Ron Paul, but I still think Ron Paul is better than Rick Santorum. And I don't think Ron Paul and Rick Santorum are the same thing. And I don't think that they really exist on one spectrum. They have completely different beliefs. Ron Paul's belief is not like my belief, which I'm more democratic. He's not like Rick Santorum, who is just extremely viciously kind of neoliberal. Not neoliberal, neoconservative. Ron Paul is something himself. He's by himself. So he doesn't really exist on this spectrum that you would like us to believe in. And that's why I'm saying there are colors, that you can't really break the world down to being black or white or gray, that there are a bunch of different perspectives that are opposed to each other, but me personally favor some, others more so than others. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. And sorry if I didn't make that clear in the comment section below. So, I had a hard time with thinking of somebody who was a conservative, a liberal, or a Democrat who sells themselves as moderates. And I said LBJ. The reason I said LBJ was because I've seen several of I've watched. That's one of those elections that I'm really interested in because it's got, you know, political de-alignment and realignment. And his video, and his attack ad on Barry Goldwater is one where it's like there's this field of like flowers and there's this girl and like there's an atomic bomb and then it just like pans away and there's a huge fucking mushroom cloud and he's like, you know, this is what it looks like when you vote for Barry Goldwater. And so he was like labeling Barry Goldwater an extremist, and he was trying to sell himself off as being as a rational, moderate candidate prior to being elected. But then he gets elected, and he basically goes to Vietnam. He takes us to Vietnam, in spite of the fact that we didn't have a reason to go to Vietnam. And so that's an example where he was actually pushing a specific agenda, but he was selling himself as being the non-extremist, as being the moderate candidate. And the reason I said FDR was because FDR, I think in the 1920s, before he was running as the president, but was instead running as the vice president in the Democratic, as a Democrat, was the moderate candidate. He was selling himself as being the moderate, who was trying to balance out the candidate who, on the Democratic side, who was running against Harding. And then when, you know, he didn't win the election, you know, 1920 as vice president, but he did win, you know, when he actually became president as the main runner for the Democratic Party. He pushed for the, you know, the New Deal. He pushed for these really democratic socialist, you know, legislation, these more radical perspectives, which to me would not show anything like being a moderate candidate. That did not really go with what he was saying beforehand. When he took office, he just changed his perspectives totally altogether. And so that's the reason I said those. I am sorry that there aren't a bunch of people who are on the left who are trying to sell themselves off as being moderate. That's, you know, it's a bigger problem for the Republicans. And sure, no one explicitly says that they're a moderate always. You know, it's not like Lee Doran or somebody like, you know, like these other Republicans I listed off, like explicitly say that they're moderate. But they do sell themselves off as being rational, and Lee Doran's, I'll remove Lee Doran from the group because Lee Doran's actually okay. But somebody like Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck still sell themselves off as being a moderate. The whole Fox News station is all about selling themselves as being moderate and labeling the Democrats as being extremists. And I take a problem with that, and that's what I was saying when I was saying that there's a second group of people who call themselves moderates. Yeah. I don't want to keep this like too long, but okay. Well, I think I'm probably gonna finish this up pretty soon. You mentioned, then I'm gonna go forward. You talked about that I was wrong about the Senate. I was wrong. I'll admit to that. I'll concede that. I don't know why. I thought it was 63 Democrats and 37 Republicans. I don't know every one of the senators. I thought it was, but you're right. It is 53 against 47 Republicans. And so I'll just concede that point. But let's say that there was a hypothetical scenario in which that, you know what? Well, I'll just concede that point. I was wrong on that point. But I will say, though, that just because something is bipartisan and just reaching across the aisle is not always a good thing. It's not always a good thing because, for example, let's talk about a stimulus package. I supported the original version of the stimulus package. I didn't like the fact that it was cut down so dramatically, and I think that originally it was like twice as big as it was actually passed as. And so that's an example where there's a bipartisanship, where somebody reached across the aisle, and I didn't like that. And same with healthcare. The removal of the public option and the putting in the individual mandate. I didn't like that. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think that those legislations were perfect when they came in. I still think that debate needed to occur. I just don't think that that kind of compromise is always a good thing. And I think you might have said something among those lines. I guess I'll end this video now, I suppose. And just by recapping what I said at the beginning, is I agreed with the other video in which I said, you know, Theo Warner is not a moderate. That's the video. Go watch the video if you haven't seen it. And I still stand by the perspective that if you don't take a position, and I don't mean some sort of labeled position, but I'm saying don't have a position at all, that is a bad thing. And if you disagree, feel free to tell me. But really what I think that your video was really all about was just being upset because I hadn't really separated what it meant to be a moderate and what it meant to be something like, you know, Theo Warner. So, knowing what I said in Theo Warner is not a moderate, that video, that is my perspective on the issue. And I apologize for anybody who's watching this. I pulled down that video because it didn't represent what I wanted to say, and I don't agree with what I had said. And so, yeah, I'm not saying that if you call yourself a moderate, that automatically you are responsible for all the problems. I'm just saying it's better to be nuanced, and it's better to come up with opinions than to be the vast majority of apathetic voters who don't vote. In fact, you talk about this in some of your other videos where you say you encourage people to vote in their local elections, and they don't. What are they? Are they extreme? Are they extremist? Or are they moderate? Or are they something else? I think they're moderates.